it's Johara. Welcome back to my channel. So I'm gonna do a tag video. Yay! I probably mentioned this, probably not recently in recent videos, but I have mentioned quite a lot in the past that tag videos are my favorite videos to do, to make, to watch, to just everything, to form and to create, because I've created a few, to like find the answers for the questions for other people's tags that I want to do. So it's fun, it's fun. Um, Sometimes it can be a little frustrating at the same time trying to find the answers because I'm like, but I could use this book with it or I could use this character with it. And it's like, which ones do I use? But I said a little while ago, which is, you haven't seen tags. I haven't done tags in a little while, but that's because if you're an old subscriber, you must know that I did mention a little while back that I wanted to um, wait to do tag videos until I read some more books because I was using the same books and characters for every answer, which is fine, but I want to mix it up a bit. Every tag I swear will have something to do with Seekers one way or another. That's not gonna be avoided. I'm obsessed with Seekers. You should know this. If you've been on my channel for a while, you should know how obsessed I am with Seekers. It's literally what I named my channel after. And somehow, most videos I find a way to mention Seekers. I don't know how I do it. It's like a superpower of mine. Somehow, Seekers gets brought up. How? I do not know. But I'm not complaining because Seekers is everything to me. But anyways, I decided to do this one because it's the Pride Flag book tag. And it's June now. It's the 2nd. Yeah, 2nd of June. I didn't realize it was that late. Okay, it's 9:35. Oh well. I don't have to work tomorrow, so I'm good. So, yeah, it's June, Pride Month, and I am part of the LGBTQ. I mean, for you, I don't know if I've actually ever mentioned that on my channel. I might have mentioned it briefly before. At least I mentioned that I'm a lesbian before, probably, because that's I've known about a long time. But I've come to terms with asexuality since then. So I'm an asexual lesbian. So yeah, that's fun. And I found out about this tag a little while ago, and even though I wanted to do it as soon as I found out about it, I didn't because I didn't really have any queer books, which made me really sad. I have one, which I've read at least twice, maybe 3 times. I'm not sure, but I want to say twice. But it's really good. I actually read it kind of recently-ish, too. Reread it or something. But yeah, that's the Hocus Pocus and the Only sequel, which will be mentioned in this tag. But that's because, for the most part, I only read fantasy, except for Aaron Hunter's books. And I did recently buy, I think it's all the way over there, Final Girls, which is like a either horror or thriller book. And then there's this mystery duology I do want to try, because like on TV I like horror, I like mystery. On horror, I like just about every genre except for romance and erotica. Those are the 2 genres I cannot stand, no matter if it's a movie, TV show, book, doesn't matter. I cannot stand those 2 genres. But in books, I'm a lot more pickier. And that's also why I tend to mostly only rate things 5 or 4 books, not because I don't rate books I think is lower than that, but because most of the books I read are 5 or 4 for a rating for me at least. So I get very disappointed if I rate anything lower than that. At 3, I'm not that disappointed because 3 is still a good rating. But if end up rating 1 or 2, I get very disappointed because I'm like, every book I read, I'm sure it's gonna be a 5 or 4 star because they usually are. I'm so used to rating books that much because I'm such a picky reader that I just haven't, because it's like I know what I like. So why stray from that? Why end up reading something I don't enjoy just because I want to get out of my comfort zone? I like my comfort zone. I'm gonna stay in my comfort zone. But that book, that Final Girls book, does that seem interesting, and so does the mystery duology. That's why I do want to try those, and I hope I like them. I do think I like them, despite they're not fantasy. But I love Aaron Hunter's books, and they're not fantasy, so you know what? I might like them. Who knows? We'll see. But anyways, the reason why I haven't really done this tag yet is because I don't really have any queer books. But when I was rereading those questions yesterday, I think it was, because it's Pride Month, and I was reading them and I was like, you know what? Only one of these questions even mentioned they have to be queer. A lot of them are mostly about like accepting a character that I guess accepted themselves or something like that. Because Well, that would make sense because uh, queer is about, accepting yourself, accepting your differences, and being proud of who you are, which are what these questions are. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to be queer related to have to learn that acceptance and that the proudness, fondness you eventually feel for yourself, if any of that even makes sense. um, but yeah, so that was a long introduction to explain this, but I have bought a lot more books recently, and I have a lot more free time because that over time, because I know I wasn't uploading as much or reading as much or writing as much, which all made me very sad because I was doing so much overtime at work. I worked at Herf Jones, and uh, it's graduation. As like a graduation place for caps and gowns, and with graduation, yeah, it got busy. I was working 12-hour days, 10-hour days, 6 days a week, and yeah, so when I wasn't working, I just wanted to do nothing, lie down in my bed or sleep, literally. So it made me sad, but I didn't want to do anything, not even read or write or upload videos, which are three of my greatest joys in life. Um, and when I did, I only could do so little because then I'm like, you know what, I need a rest. My mind's been working overtime, so I need a rest. It kind of felt like I was doing two jobs because, or three jobs, because this is kind of like, well, it's not a job yet, not till I get paid for it, hopefully. But writing is a job because it's a job I enjoy because I love writing, but I get paid for it, so technically it's a job. I consider it a job at least. But yeah, so yay, let's get to this, shall we? Uh, so let's get into the tag. And after I read these books, all these books that I bought recently, I will be doing a lot more tag videos because those are my favorite videos to do. I don't even remember all the tag videos I put on my phone, my old phone. I haven't switched them over to my new phone yet. But so they're still all on here, and I can't wait. And I know once I finally read all these books, I'm gonna be looking through all those tag videos, and you're probably gonna see like 5 tag videos from me a week. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but oh well. Let's get into the video, shall we? Okay, it's only 6 questions. So the pride flag book tag. So each like there's 6 questions, and each one's like I guess a color of the pride flag. Okay, number one, red life. A book with a spirited protagonist, totally proud of who they are, someone who gives you life. So for this, I probably, if you have watched a lot of my videos, you might already know the answer, or maybe not. Maybe you just don't remember because I don't think I mentioned it recently. So maybe if you've watched some of my older videos, you would know. But for this question, I went with Ziri Green Apple. Why? So I love Ziri. She's a great protagonist. Um, she could be annoying sometimes, but like no character's flawed or perfect. Every character's flawed. She was annoying in the sense that she was kind of boy crazy at times. It's like she always needed a crush. She always needed a man to pine after, I guess, But it was more annoying in the beginning because it's like the person she had a crush on, she didn't truly know him. Not really. I don't think anyone truly knew him, to be honest, not even his brother. But I think he was like the boy next door, and the perfect hot guy, and I guess I think she loved the idea of him, not him. But not until she started on this journey, and then she got to know that guy's little brother, who she always kind of pegged off as the annoying brother of her crush, who she realized is actually a really sweet and caring and kind guy who is so smart and amazing, and then she truly fell in love with him for who he was. And I love that ship. I would die for that ship. But anyways, Ziri, the reason why I chose her for this question was besides her flaws, one reason why she's an amazing, powerful, feminist protagonist is because so the whole point of this book is that in Oz, magic is illegal, and but her and her friends, two of her friends, Vashti and Tabitha, along with Brink, who is the boy she ends up getting a crush on, her first crush's younger brother. they all have magic, so they all sneak off into woods together to practice magic all the time because it's illegal. Until Tabitha gets captured by flying monkeys, and they have to go on a journey to save her and to make magic legal again, so that they don't have to keep on hiding or being on the run and can be themselves and be free. And one thing I love, because there was even one time at the end of the first book, because there's two books. At the end, she's like, of this book, she's like, um, there's this, I guess, fountain that can take away their powers, and um, was it Ozma that was trying to get her to do that? I think so. Ozma was trying to get her to do that, but she kept saying no because she thought Tabitha had done it. It's a long story. I don't want to give spoilers. And she was like, no, see, Tabitha, you're not even yourself anymore. These powers, as if they're a part of us. They make us who we are. They're special and unique, and I'm not giving mine up for anything. And she's just so strong and independent, and just like she would not. She was. What was the question again? I lost track of what I was even saying. A book with a spirited protagonist, totally proud of who they are. Okay, yeah. So that explains Zira, because she is totally proud of who she is, magic and all, despite it being illegal, despite how people might fear it or think of it or deem it as evil. She doesn't care. Magic was a part of her, and she wasn't willing to give that part up. Because if you give up that part of her, you give up that's a chunk of her that's no longer there. This void that's just gone, and it's like she's not herself anymore. She's not whole without that part as well, if that makes any sense. But yeah, she's someone who's totally proud of who she is, despite everything, despite what everyone says. She will fight to the end to keep that, and it's just beautiful to watch how powerful she truly is. Okay, what's next? Number 2, Orange, Healing. A book that made you a reader or find a deeper meaning or catharsis in your own. I have to look up that word because I never heard that word before, but I guess it means like to accept yourself or something. I'm gonna have to look that up, guys. Now I forgot. Crap. I clicked the wrong thing. Okay, catharsis. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right. So, definition for Carath. How do you spell it? I don't know what I'm doing apparently. Um, Catharsis. Okay, I'm spelling that wrong. Catharsis. There it is. It says the process of releasing and thereby providing relief from a strong to repressed emotions. Okay, so that's what that means. So for that, I went with Harry Potter. Why? Because despite the feelings on Harry Potter with everything and J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter was probably the first chapter book I read that, like, the first real adult book I read. And I was young, and it was like I would have been in either second or third grade. Not long before I read Secrets, which is my life, and you all should know that by now. But Harry Potter it may not be my favorite book anymore since Secrets stole my heart, but it will always be one of the top books for me, and it will always be one of my absolute favorite things in the world. I mean, do I have to show you guys my bedroom? Because there are Harry Potter posters, Harry Potter stickers, like those wall decals. There's like a whole shelf for Harry Potter. There are like 3 Harry Potter dolls. There's like, oh wait, I moved some of my Harry Potter stuff over here, right? See, right here, all up there are Harry Potter stuff. I have the wand, Neville, Hedwig, 2 Harry Potters. I have Hogwarts alumni. I have like 2 other Harry Potter like little things like that. One of them is over there on my writing desk, says Wizards Welcome. And then I have the Howler, and then I have so many other Harry Potter things in my bedroom. Is that all my Harry Potter things out here? Oh, I have my Harry Potter book bag from high school. I'm not getting rid of that because it's Harry Potter. Then I have all the Harry Potter books, obviously. So yeah, I have a lot of Harry Potter things because Harry Potter will always be one of my favorite things in the entire world. It will always hold a special place in my heart, no matter what. And yeah, and I'm pretty sure Jenny was my gay awakening. Like, seriously, Jenny is my everything. Ginny and Ron are my favorite characters. And I know, Hermione kind of stole the spotlight, and I love Hermione. Don't get me wrong, she's one of my favorite characters. But I've always kind of preferred Ginny over Hermione, even when I was younger. It's like there's just something about Ginny that I loved. Maybe it was how powerful she was, how fierce. I don't know what it was, but she always just caught my attention more than Hermione. Sorry, Hermione, I love you, but Ginny has my heart. I love Ginny. But Ron's my favorite male character. He and Ginny are like, I love them both. They're both amazing. And yeah, so I had to have Harry for this because Harry's Harry. Okay, what's the next one? 3, Yellow Sunshine, a book that fills you with so much joy it could brighten even your darkest day. If you guys know me at all, should you even be surprised when I hold up a secret book? Ah! I killed Khalik. I'm gonna go cry now. I'm sorry, Khalik. I will never hurt you again. Khalik's my favorite character, which you should also know if you've been on my channel for a little while, because I've mentioned quite often how I'm obsessed with Khalik. But yeah, Secrets will always be one of my happiest books. I go to it, I could read it at any emotion, and it will just fill me with so much emotions, which I love, and I love the characters. They're so relatable, and I know a lot of people prefer Warriors, and don't get me wrong, I like Warriors, what I've read so far. I finally bought all the books except for the 7th arc. I'm waiting for the last book to come out to buy the entire 7th arc and read it. But I need to catch up on Warriors, which I plan on doing soon. I just bought so many books, and there's so much more Warriors that honestly I'm probably gonna have that be last, because I bought so many other books, and Warriors, there's just so many of them. And then I'll probably do Survivors of Bravelands, because I do want, even though there's less of those, I do want to read Warriors before those. But anyways, I know a lot of people prefer Warriors, and Warriors is good, but Seekers is just, oh my gosh, the characters, the plot, the settings, the adventure, the friendship. I mentioned this so many times, but the friendship, I swear, the friendship between these 4 bears, that's the most important thing ever. And the friendship is what matters between all of them. The friendship is, it's all about their friendship, their undying love for each other. And that's one thing I love, because so many books focus mostly are all about the romantic relationships, which don't get me wrong, I love a good romantic subplot. I can't have a romance book. It's just boring, in my opinion. If you love it, good. Go read a romance, but I can't. I need so much more than just a sappy romance to get me to feel. But honestly, my favorite thing to read about in terms of relationships, like romantic relationships, friendships, family relationships, my favorite thing out of all of those are friendships. I think friendships are so underrated, and it's like they are so important, because it's just as important about a friendship as it is about a relationship. And earlier today, I actually came up with a book idea that I don't know how I came up with it, but for some reason, enemies to lovers came into my mind, because I love enemies to lovers. But I thought, what about enemies to friends? It's the same thing, except you guys hated each other, and then you guys become this strong, powerful bond. And I thought, and I have this whole idea now about fairies and mermaids and their enemies, but then these 2 girls who hated each other and was at each other's throats, all of a sudden formed this deep, meaningful relationship that's completely platonic and will never turn into anything else, because friendships are just as important. And that book may not have any romance at all, and I'm totally fine with it, because relationships, yes, romantic relationships are important, but friendships, they are so underrated. And I love a good friendship. Like the book, like Skinjacker trilogy. I'll mention one of the books in this video, but Allie and Nick's friendship to me is just so important. And when I was tabbing it, I was sad to realize that they didn't have as many scenes as I thought when I first read it. I was like, crap. But their friendship is still so important, because even if they don't have many scenes together, they still think about each other constantly, because their friendship was important. It was just a matter of them finding each other. That was the clincher. And what other books? Do I have any other books that are about friendship. Well, I mean, I guess Bewitched Oz kind of is, because yeah, it has Ziri crushing on guys, but it's also about her friendship with Vashti and Tabitha and stuff, and her friendship with Ring before they became something more. What else? Do I have any more friendship books? Because I will cry if I don't. Descendants books. I have Lost books. Those are about friendship. It's about the friendship between Mel, Jay, Carlos, and Evie. And then the Ghoul Friends, that literally has friends in the title because it's about the friendship between Rochelle, Venus, Rebecca, and Sai. Even if he doesn't technically become part of their group to the fourth book, I don't care. I think that's it. Sadly, that makes me sad, but yeah, I think that's it. I also have my Raptor High book and my Monster High and Raptor High crossovers, but I really need more books about friendship. So you guys have any good fantasies that have a good, strong, amazing friendship? Please tell me them in the titles in the comments, and I will definitely look them up because I need more strong friendships. And if there's no romance at all, just still send them my way because I will eat up the friendship itself. Like seriously, that's one of my favorite things in books, in TV, in anything. And I think that needs to be more of a factor. Like in my books, even the ones that do have some sort of romance, there's always a strong friendship that's just as important as the romance, if not even more important. Because to me, friendship is one of the most important things in the world. And I just feel like in books and TV, they don't show that as much. Maybe I just haven't been reading or watching the right things, but I don't know. We'll see. But I keep getting off topic on my little rants. Oh well. But the point of this is that Seekers will always brighten up my day. I'll be rereading Seekers soon because, as I mentioned 100 times on this channel, I have to read Seekers at least once a year so I don't lose my mind. I have to read it constantly because it always just brings me a sense of security. It's like my safe place. Seekers, the land of Seekers, and these four bears and their friendship, that's my safe place. That's my security. And it brings me so much joy. Yes, it brings me kind of sadness too, especially since one of the main characters died. I won't tell you who because that's a spoiler, and I won't tell you when either, so it kind of becomes shock. But yeah, I do absolutely love Seekers, and when I do read it, since I'm tabbing books now, I haven't tabbed this yet because I haven't been tabbing books that long, but it's probably these Secret books are probably going to be my most tabbed books. That I can guarantee. Just because I love Secret so much, and especially the Clique since she's my favorite character, and Udrack's my second, so he'd probably get a lot of tabs too. Okay, moving on, because whenever I talk about Secrets, I can't stop. Number 4, Green Nature, a book that is set out of this world, a reality different to our own. So this one, I mean, there's several books I guess I could have chosen for this, but I ended up going with one that isn't 100% a world different than our own, but at the same time it is. So maybe I'm cheating a little bit, but oh well. I went with Everlost, book 1 in the second Jacker trilogy. This book is just really good. Like I said, Allie and Nick's friendship is so important, especially in the first book, but I think it is throughout the series if you ask me. Allie's relationship with Mikey's important as well, and Nick's relationship with Mary, I guess, is important, but it makes me want to vomit because if you are an old subscriber, you would know that I hate Mary Hightower worse than I have ever hated any book character before, even more than Umbridge from Harry Potter, and I did not think that was possible, but if you don't believe me that that is possible, then read this trilogy and tell me you do not hate Mary Hightower 100 times worse than Umbridge. Because at least Umbridge, even though she acted all sweet and innocent, she knew what she was doing was wrong and she just didn't care. And I know that's bad, but what's worse is thinking Mary Hightower because she thinks what she's doing is right and she always plays the victim card. And okay, I'm gonna move on because every time I mention Mary Hightower or somehow Mary Hightower brought up, I get extremely angry and I start on a rant. And I know one time I was telling my sister about how annoying she was, and before I knew it, I started beating her with my book. I'm kidding. It's kind of. Okay, so what was the question again? me and my rants. Um, a book that's set in a reality different than our own. So they live in Everlost. Well, live is kind of an ironic word, but at the very, 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 very beginning of this book, there's a car crash, killing Allie and Nick, and then they're sent to Everlost, where they wake up 9 months later as what they call afterlights, because that means those are the dead people, and the afterlives are people that like just cross over, because like when you first die, if you don't move on, because you're like not ready to move on or you have unfinished business or whatever, you sleep for 9 months and then you wake up. And yeah, so they were asleep for 9 months and they crossed into Everlost together because they were both in the same car crash. They were in different cars. Their cars collided. They didn't know who they were beforehand. But Allie, I love her, but she can be a bit bossy and a bit of a know-it-all. But so can Hermione Granger. And then Nick, he's just such a sweetheart. At first, he was a little bit of a pushover, but he goes through a lot, even in the first book, where to the point where he just toughens up. The second book, he does get a little more short tempered, but that's not his fault. He starts turning into someone he's not, and it started controlling him. But in the third book, he becomes himself again, and I love to see that journey. I love every time I read this. I love watching his journey back into himself. It's like he goes through such a rocky journey, even more so than Allie's. Like he starts out sweet, but kind of a pushover, and then he toughens up to the point where he becomes a leader, to the point where he's leading an entire army against Mary Hightower, the woman who he loves. It's complicated, but and then you watch him slowly dissolve because of the form he is in. I'm not gonna tell you because it's a spoiler. I'm trying not to spoil too much. And then you watch him slowly re-evolve and become himself again more than ever, and it's just so beautiful to watch and to read about. And yeah, but anyways, Everlost is like it's same as the living world, and but it's all black and gray. And so when in Afterlife, like Allie and Nick were walking through Everlost, they can see the people, but they can't have any contact with them, and people and things that are living go right through them. But there are things called dead spots. Those are places because afterlife can sink into the ground because they're technically the ground is living and they are not, so they sink right to the bottom. And if you sink to the bottom, you supposedly can never get out. That's a long story. You'll find out more about that later if you read it, which you should. But there are dead spots, which are places that, like, let's say a forest got burned and it had this terrible fire, and then that forest is technically, even if they rebuild it and stuff, it's still technically a dead spot. Same with a building. Let's say a building has fire, and even though it they might rebuild the place and make it look brand new, it's still technically a dead spot because something tragic happened there. Someone had died or something had died. So Afterlife can walk on there with no problem because it's crossed into Everlost. And those are the only things they can touch, things that have crossed into Everlost. So yeah. Um but yeah, Everlost, even though it's kind of our world, it's also kind of not. And it's very complicated, but you should definitely give this a read. Okay. Number 5, Blue, Peace. A book where one of the characters finds peace with a difficult truth. Uh, okay, so I went with The Exile of Shade and Shadow. I've been mentioning this book a lot on my channel lately, but that's because I just read it recently and now I am obsessed with it because it was so good. And the second book comes out in July. I do not know a date yet, but I know the authors. They're really nice. They even signed a book for me. Like, this is my first signed copy of a book ever. You probably can't read that, but it says, "Hope you enjoy Rebecca and Nemu." They're really nice people. I'm really glad I met them, and they sent me this copy for free to boot. So thank you. And I absolutely loved it. It was, oh my gosh, I absolutely loved it. Um, as you can tell, I kind of tabbed it a bit. I don't know if you can see all the tabs, but I loved it so much, and I can't even express it in words. I mentioned it a lot in videos because I fell in love with it. But what was this question again? Oh yeah, a character who had to come to truth with a difficult, or had to come to terms with a difficult truth, something like that. Well, I went with Luco because him and Astra both have troubled lives. This is after the Great War is over and they won. Astra was and Luco, they were both kind of in the center of the war as well. They didn't really like each other at first, but they formed a very tight and great friendship. And like I said, friendship is my favorite thing in the world, so I love their friendship. That's what made this ending even more heartbreaking for me. But you'll understand if you read it, which you should, so go read it. Like, what are you still doing here? Just go read it. It deserves it. Um, but yeah, Astra was sure that Tyron, the person who was like on the opposing side of the war, who was supposed to be dead, was alive. And even though she was the one that killed him, she was sure that he didn't actually die and that he just faked his death. And I won't tell you if that's true or not because I don't want to spoil it, or at least spoil it too much. I'm probably gonna spoil it a little bit. But Luco, he's had a very hard life. He Astra is going through like a lot of, and I don't know if she's actually going through anxiety. I think so. I mean, she kind of acts like it sometimes. She's like, I don't know, but she's has a lot of PTSD from the war. Like, that's what she's going through. And Luco, he gets abused at home from his father, emotionally and physically, and from his sister as well. Emotionally on her side, not physically, but physically on his father's side a little bit, but mostly emotional more than anything. He gets abused. That's the point. And it's sad to watch because he's such a great character. Him and Astra, I fell in love with them. They're amazing, and I just hate seeing both of them in pain throughout the story, but they are. But that's another reason why I love their friendship because they just formed such tight friendship that they both really needed, if you ask me. But uh, Luco and Astra do go hit a weird point at one point because Astra is still in a lot of pain because Tyron had captured her and tortured her for a little bit during the whole war thing before she escaped and supposedly killed him. So she thought at first, but yeah. She she has a lot of trauma from him and everything he did to her. But what she ends up finding out is that Luco actually knew Tyron before he became that person, or before he at least did those things. Whether or not he was that person at the time is unknown. But he was just a boy, and Tyron, and with the fact that his father, with the way his father and siblings treated him, and his mother not in the picture because she died, his Tyron kind of became like a father figure to him, and he was kind to him and showed him love. The first person to ever actually do that, and it's just so sad. But it makes you, but he, and even though Astra's now his friend, and Tyron caused her so much pain, and Tyron had did all those bad things, and he felt so much anger and confused emotions towards Tyron for doing all that stuff. But but Tyron was still there for him and treated him kindly and was a good person to him. So, and Luco kind of hated himself for feeling that way, but Astra finally confided in him with what her research was about and told him how he Tyron was actually alive, and that's what her research had been about those last several months, and then he had to accept that difficult truth because it's like at one hand he had so many questions to ask him. He wants to know why he left him, why he did all those horrible things, why he hurt Astra, someone who's very important to him now, and also he wanted, and but he was like he had so many confused emotions. Like he wanted to hate him. He was like, I'm supposed to hate him, but why don't I? Why can't I? And it's just so sad to see him go through all of this, because he doesn't deserve it. Neither does Astra, but Astra's fit. But after she finds out everything that happened, like, because she got to know his family and got to see the way he treated Luco and tried to stick up to him again, she it felt weird that her best friend cared for the man who tortured her and caused her all her trauma. But at the same time, she understood why he did because after learning the full story, she was like, in anyone's shoe, who wouldn't, But yeah, so Luca had come to get to that truth. I mean, technically Astrid did at the beginning too, because even though she had suspicions, she wasn't. Those suspicions weren't confirmed yet. So yeah. And number 6, right? Number 6, Purple Spirit, a book that deals with LGBTQ themes and religion. So this I chose for Hocus Pocus and the All New Sequel because I don't actually have a queer book. This is the closest thing I do have to it because like the first half, actually less than half I think. Less than half of this book is just like the movie. Like there's a few scenes that wasn't in the movie that are in the book, but other than that, it's basically just like the movie. So I say if you're a fan of the movie, you should definitely read the book. But the rest of it is the sequel, 25 years later, which is why I'm saying that the Hocus Pocus sequel, second movie, is not like the sequel book. Here, I'm gonna throw punches. I will scream and I will go on a full-on rant for like a 30-minute video on my channel to explain how angry I am about that. But for now, let's just hope it is like the book. Or at least they did some sort of adaptation from the sequel book, because if they just throw out the book at all and do their own idea, I will not be happy, and I probably won't like the movie because the book is just too amazing. But yeah, 25 years later, and Poppy is Max and Allison's daughter, and she has heard the story from her parents and her aunts for her entire life. I think she's 17, so 17 years she heard about that story, but she didn't believe it. The only person that knew about the story was her best friend Travis. And there's also it's not just queer characters. There's other races, like her best friend and her crush are both black, which is mentioned. But so Travis is her best friend, and I love their friendship. I love their friendship. Like I said, I eat up a good friendship. But I do love the relationship between Poppy and Isabella as well. Because one thing I love about this, a lot of queer books are all about like coming out, like um, that whole coming out story, I guess, you know. And don't get me wrong, I like it, and it needs to be said a lot of times. But at the same time, we've had that story so many times in so many different ways. How many more ways can we do it? Why can't LGBTQ just be normalized? I get that it's not 100% normalized yet in the real world, but that's why we need it in fiction even more, because it should be normalized. You should be able. There should no. My mom always says, and I completely agree, that there should be no such thing as coming out. It should just, everyone should just be like, hey, this is so. Hey, mom, dad, this is so and so. This is my girlfriend slash boyfriend, whether or not you're a girl or boy. If you're a girl, say, hey, this is my girlfriend. Be like, oh, hi. Not, oh, mom, I'm a lesbian. I hope you still love me, because that shouldn't have to be an issue. I know it still is, and it probably always will be in some ways, but it's just, one thing I love is whenever a story has it where the queer character's relationship is just so normalized, like in this book. And Poppy and Travis are talking. I love their friendship, but they're talking, teasing each other, doing whatever they want, because Travis likes to tease Poppy a lot about her crush on Isabella. But they see Isabella, and then Travis makes a comment about Poppy's crush. And throughout the story, you follow Poppy mostly, and they talk about her crush on Isabella, and her parents know about it, and they're okay with it as well, because it's all just normalized. Like they kiss at the end, they finally kiss, and it's all just normalized, and her parents and aunt are just all happy about it, and it just, it's like it's normal, like a straight relationship. Why can't it be like that all the time? And that's one thing I love about the relationship the most, is that they mentioned that Poppy's a lesbian briefly, and then throughout the movie they're just talking about her crush on a girl at school like they would if it was a straight relationship. But, and that's one thing I loved about it, and it was just so beautiful. And yeah, so, and since they kiss at the end, you can guess that they do end up together, and I love it. I live for it, and it's amazing. And apparently one of these old tabs I did not replace with a new tab, so I'm gonna have to fix that. But yeah, so definitely give this book a read if you haven't. If you're a fan of Hocus Pocus, you definitely should, because it's so amazing and I'm in love with it. The sequel is just breathtaking. And yeah, so that's all for this video. Please like and subscribe and comment if you have any queer fantasy books. Please tell me. I would love to read it. Just make sure like the romance isn't like the main point of it. Like I'm okay with, I love a good romance, but only a subplot. I can't have it be the main thing. It has to be so much more fantasy. The fantasy part of it has to be the main thing. It just has to be for me. But yeah, so if you have any suggestions, comment down below. If you've read any of these, comment down below. If you haven't, well, what are you doing here? Go read them. So that's all, and I will talk to you guys later.